These are Huawei's latest phones, the Huawei P10 and the Huawei P10 Plus. And as you can probably guess from the name, the difference is in size of the screen. The P10 has a 5.1 inch 1080p screen, and the 5.5 inch P10 Plus has a 1440p display, so higher resolution and larger on the P10 Plus, a little bit smaller and lower resolution on the P10. There are a couple of differences in the cameras on the P10 and the P10 Plus. Although they both use the same megapixel cameras, there's a 12 megapixel color lens and a 20 megapixel monochrome lens. The lenses over the top are slightly different. It's a Leica co-developed camera, and it's a Summa H lens over the P10 and the higher quality Summilux H over the P10 Plus. The differences, say, Huawei are in low light photography. We've been given these a pretty strong test, and there definitely are differences between the two, but perhaps they're really only noticeable when you put them alongside each other. You're going to be pretty happy with the low light photography on both of these phones. There are a couple of other differences which you can read about in the review itself concerning battery size and things like that. But otherwise, power-wise, both these phones are the same. They have the Kirin 960 processor, which we last saw in the Huawei Mate 9, and there's 4 gigabytes of RAM, unless you happen to buy the 128 gigabytes version of this, which is available in some territories, which comes with 6 gigabytes of RAM. Huawei uses Android 7 Nougat on both phones and uses the EMUI 5.1 system over the top. It's their user interface, which we've seen various times and is considerably better than it used to be. However, with EMUI 5.1, Huawei has done away with those usual Android software keys at the bottom here, which are for menu and for back and for the home screen, and also with any soft touch buttons below the screen, and instead has introduced a system that uses its seamless fingerprint sensor here. We're going to demonstrate that for you. You're either going to love it or hate it, by the way. So the way it works is this. Let's open the gallery and we'll have a look at a picture. Now normally to go back you'd tap the home screen button or you'd tap the back button, but in this case you tap the fingerprint sensor to go back, or you hold it down to go back to home. To find your recently used apps, you swipe to the side and you get a long list, and again back or home. And there's a little bit of haptic feedback when you tap the home button correctly, so hold it down and it vibrates for you to go back to the home screen. It's fine. It's really one of those changes that doesn't need to be made. And thankfully, if you don't like using that, it does take a little bit of getting used to. If you've been using Android for a while, you can activate the Android keys on the screen, so you don't have to use it. Otherwise, EMUI is extremely good to use. It's simple, it's fast, and it looks quite a lot like regular Android. You even have a nice list of apps that you'd expect with an app tray button there. Quite a break from Huawei's usual system of spreading your apps across the home screen. All of those features are usable on the P10 as well, the same with the fingerprint based button selection, but as you can see here we've just used the normal way of doing things, which works just as well, to be absolutely honest, which is why we're not quite sure Huawei would want to introduce that system. However, what we're really impressed with is the camera on the P10 and the P10 Plus. Seeing me in this, you can see we've taken a lot of pictures with the P10 and the P10 Plus, and its low light photography ability is superb. We've been really happy to use this particular camera. It's also got some very special features for portraits, and that means it can blur backgrounds on people. These are some of the pictures we've taken using the P10, and the results are quite simply fantastic. blurring the background also works on the front camera, so you can have selfies with that blurred bokeh background effect. The great part of it is when you take one of those pictures, you go into your gallery and you can adjust the focal point. So if you want a blurred background but a blurred image in front of you, you can do that. It's very simple to use. In fact, the camera itself is very simple to use all round. So if we swap that, it's a slide in for different menus either way, and slide up to activate Pro mode. It's very simple to use and very easy to get used to if you're not used to a smartphone camera. Now these two phones, we're sad to announce that they're not going to be sold in the US yet. These have been announced for the UK and parts of Europe and China, but there's been no announcement for the US, which is unfortunate. In the UK, prices, or Europe rather, prices are going to start around 650 euros for the P10, about 700 for the P10 Plus. Of the two, we're particular fans of the P10. It's very compact in the hand. We really like the fact that it's easy to use with one hand rather than being a little bit of a mission to stretch your finger across the screen in the same manner with the larger P10 Plus. And because the camera doesn't necessarily have that many benefits, we'd rather save a little bit of money and a little bit of hand stretching and go for the smaller P10. We've got the black and the silver version here, but Huawei makes these in several different colors. Have a look at the pictures of the dazzling blue, as they're calling it, the dazzling blue version of the P10. It's stunning. It's a really fantastic color, and it has a machined effect on the background, on the back, which gives it a very unusual texture and a really unusual look when you see it in direct light. Have a look at the pictures on the site for that. We really like the P10, and the camera takes fantastic pictures. Definitely one of the best we've seen in a very long time. And we like the P10 Plus too. Our pick is a slightly smaller P10. You can have a look at the full review of these two great phones on Digital Trends right now.